Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I'm conversing now with my good friend, Lance Malone. He's with Standard Supply, an AC company that takes care of some of the great vendors here, really now throughout Texas. And we're delighted to be able to bring guests from all over the place for our program. Lance, real quickly, tell us about Standard Supply and then introduce your guest for us.
Sure, Kevin. Thanks a lot. Always enjoy being on your show. It's good to be here again today. Standard Supply is a distributor of heating, air conditioning, refrigeration, and ventilation products, and we have branches all over Texas. And we've been helping the best contractors in Texas take care of their customers since 1946. Our website is ssdhvac.com. That's ssdhvac.com. And today I'm thrilled to have Gary Parr with us. Gary is the president of Home Energy Consultants, and you can learn more about them at energysavinginthehome.com. That's energysavinginthehome.com. And I was wondering, Gary, if you'd tell us a little bit about your background and tell us about Home Energy Consultants.
Sure, you bet, Lance. And Kevin, thanks for having me on the show today. Home Energy Consultants, we started the company a few years ago, actually, but I've been in the business for over 35 years, really concentrating on the actual whole house approach to air conditioning and heating systems. And there was really a need for making sure that we were not only doing the air conditioning and heating systems correctly and getting all the factors and things involved that needed to be done from that standpoint, but also doing the whole house approach and being able to incorporate that whole house approach so that the clients and customers actually have a very efficient home, a very efficient system, because it really is a systems approach. So we started the company back a couple of years ago, and of course, just going gangbusters now, with new codes and new innovations in place nowadays. It's really important to be able to do that testing and to verify what is happening when you're actually doing installations.
Yeah, that's interesting. And by the way, you are also a voice of authority on these topics, and you've been doing it on the radio for how long?
Oh, going on 10 years now, actually, Kevin. So enjoyed doing that, too, as well. Thank you for that.
And have enjoyed actually doing some things with you in the past. And so congratulations. 10 years is a long time. Go ahead. Next question, Lance.
Hey, thanks, Kevin. Gary and I wanted to talk about geothermal cooling and heating today, and we've done that on The Price of Business once before, but it was over a year ago, and I'm sure you don't remember all that by now. So
I do remember that if it's underground, it's cooler.
Hey, I'm impressed by that, Kevin.
That's good. I'm impressed with that, too.
But I wanted to ask Gary if he can give us just a basic overview of what geothermal is and how it works for your listeners.
Sure, you bet. And geothermal, I think sometimes people look at it and go, that's really something that's outer space-wise or something of that nature. They don't understand it, and it's really a very simple process. The actual indoor unit and the ductwork is basically the same as in any other house. So if you go up in your attic now and you have a furnace or an air handling unit in the attic, you're going to see something very similar to that when you have a geothermal system in place, and the duct systems are really basically identical. The only difference is, from the perspective of actually visualizing it, is there's no outside condensing unit associated with it, which is a really good thing, actually. And we either drill vertical boreholes or we use ponds in some instances in order to be able to reject heat or capture heat and bring that into the home or take that out of the home in the sense that we're rejecting heat out of the house. And it's really a very simplistic process that is very effective. Mother Nature has a tremendous benefit in being able to utilize the earth and utilize those properties of that in order to be able to make a HVAC system very, very efficient.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it seems to make so much sense. It's amazing it took this long to really catch on, because it makes so much sense.
Well, it's really, a lot of times in northern climates, it's probably a little more prevalent up there in a northern climate as opposed to maybe in a southern climate, but it's very effective as long as it's installed properly. It's like anything else, okay? We got to install things properly for them to be efficient and work properly. Back again to that testing process and making sure all the factors are involved and in place for that. But
why are things like this more effective in northern climates?
Well, it's easier to pull heat into the home as opposed to rejecting heat out. So we're in a more extreme climate here, so it's a little bit more difficult to do it. It's not impossible. It just is a process of installation and how you actually make that installation perform properly.
Yeah. Lance?
So, Gary, what are some of the benefits for the homeowner or the business person that they would want to consider putting in a geothermal system?
Well, I think one of the real main benefits, Lance, as far as I see this goes, is it's the most efficient system by far. I mean, it doesn't even compare. There's nothing else in an air source type configuration that is going to be as efficient as a water source type heat pump geothermal like this. And the other advantage, there's several advantages. One of the other advantages is the federal tax credit that's available in either new construction or retrofit. You can achieve that 30% federal tax credit on that cost. So what it does is it really brings the cost down to where it's really close to or just slightly above what one of the maybe the best air source systems would be out there, but they don't compare. See, again, it's the geothermal is just so much more efficient. So I think it's a huge benefit to consider it, as well as being able to heat domestic hot water with it too. So you can actually achieve domestic hot water heating from the geothermal system from the waste heat that it produces.
What kind of energy savings are you looking at from this?
Yeah, it could be, depending upon the house and the configuration, whether it's new construction or an existing home, whether it's electric existing or gas existing, that would vary some. But we could have a geothermal system that's 2 or 3 times more efficient than any other system out there.
Interesting. Lance?
Gary, you mentioned the federal tax credit. And I do want to emphasize that that's 30% of the entire installed cost of the system. Anything that it takes to get the system installed is included in that. But are there other sources of monies available, like rebates or anything like that, that consumers might be interested in learning about?
Right, yeah, and that's a great point, Lance. In a lot of areas, there are additional rebates. Just depends upon the area. So I would just suggest if somebody is, interested in installing a geothermal heat pump, that they would look into the city that they're in to see if there's any additional things available for them in cities, because there is actually some pretty good incentives in some cities, especially around the country, that they can get some additional dollars, including that 30% federal tax credit.
Yeah, very interesting, very interesting. And go ahead, Lance. Sounds like you had another question.
Well, we've established that geothermal equipment is by far the most efficient. We've established that there are sources of money to make it where it's not that much more expensive than a standard air conditioner, if at all. So I wanted to ask Gary, it's such a small percentage of the total installed systems that are in operation today that are geothermal. Why do you think it's such a small percentage?
Well, I think a lot of that's a lack of education. And, of course, that's what we're doing here. We're providing that education format as we do every single day when we're talking to the consumer. And I think it's been overlooked. Gas has been pretty cheap, and that's primarily the market that we're in the general southern part of the Texas area here. And because of that efficiency of gas and the cheapness of gas, I think people have kind of overlooked this a bit. So that's probably the main thing.
Gentlemen, got to wrap it up. Great segment, though. Really enjoyed it. By the way, energysavingintehome.com. That's how you reach our Gary. And, of course, Standard Supply, you can learn about them. Give that website one more time.
Yes, it's ssdhvac.com.
When I come back, much more for you. Do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com, and this is The Price of Business.